There are moments in life when faith doesn't look bold, it doesn't sound confident, and it doesn't feel victorious. Sometimes faith looks like running, sometimes it looks like hiding, and sometimes uncomfortably it looks like survival. Today, we're stepping into one of those moments in Scripture, a chapter that rarely gets highlighted, a chapter without applause, without triumph, without visible breakthrough. This is 1 Samuel chapter 21, where David, the anointed future king, pretends to be insane just to stay alive. Many of us walking through seasons where our faith doesn't look impressive either. David is on the run. Saul is no longer merely threatened by him. He is actively hunting him. Fear is no longer a possibility. It's a constant companion for David. And David does what fear so often drives us to do. He runs to the nearest place that feels safe. He goes to Nob, to the priest Ahimelech. But fear has already entered the room. David lies. He says he's on a secret mission from the king. He asks for bread, and the only bread available is a consecrated bread meant only for priests. And yet, the priest gives it to him. Jesus would later reference this very moment, reminding us that God desires mercy over ritual, that human need is not invisible to him. Still, this scene is complicated, holy yet messy, necessary yet costly. David also takes something else with him, the sword of Goliath, a reminder of a former victory, evidence of a time when faith felt fearless. Isn't it striking that when David is afraid, he reaches for an old testimony? When the present feels unstable, we often cling to what God has done before, not because we feel strong, but because we're desperate to remember that He was faithful then, and perhaps you're hoping He is still now. But Scripture quietly tells us that someone else is watching, and fear, once unleashed, rarely travels alone. From there, David runs again, this time to Gath, the hometown of Goliath. Fear clouds discernment. David walks straight into enemy territory, carrying Goliath's sword, hoping not to be recognized. But he is. Is it this David, they ask, the one they sing about? And Scripture says it plainly. David was afraid, not poetic, not symbolic, afraid. So he pretends to be insane. Saliva runs down his beard. He scratches at doors. He abandons dignity to survive. This is the same man who ran toward a giant with confidence, the same man anointed by Samuel, the same man chosen by God. And here he is, humiliated, broken, afraid. The Bible doesn't celebrate this moment. It doesn't excuse it. It simply records it. Faith doesn't always look polished in the middle of the process. Some seasons strip us of composure. Some seasons leave us reaching out of fear rather than trust. Some seasons look nothing like the calling we know God placed on our lives. And still, God does not abandon David. And David later writes Psalm 34, verse 4, I sought the Lord, and He answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. Sometimes the greatest rescue God performs is internal. The enemy uses fear to convince us we are alone, exposed, and abandoned. But Scripture reminds us of something powerful. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. And God's love for you is perfect. God doesn't shame David for his fear. He walks him through it, and that same love meets us here. Fear does not get the final word. Fear is not stronger than love. Fear does not undo God's calling. This chapter gently invites us to examine our own hearts. Fear can push us into places we don't belong. Fear can lead us to choices we never imagined making. Fear can create consequences we don't see right away. And yet, fear does not cancel calling. David's life reminds us that God's purposes are not fragile. Even unflattering chapters are still part of the story God is writing. Even when faith feels thin, grace remains strong. If you're in a season of hiding, if you're surviving more than thriving, if your life doesn't resemble the promises God once spoke, you are not disqualified. Before we close, let's pause for a brief moment of reflection. Where has fear been taking the lead in your life lately? Are there decisions you've made simply to survive? Is there a past faithfulness of God He may be inviting you to remember again? You don't have to answer those questions perfectly. God is not asking for performance, only honesty. If fear has taken over in this season, you are not abandoned. David's story reminds us that God stays close even when faith feels fragile and survival takes the lead. The Lord is not only present in our confident moments, He is near in our hiding, our confusion, and our unguarded fear. You don't need to pretend before God. You can bring yourself to Him exactly where you are. And even here, His love is steady, His grace sufficient, and His hand still holding you. Thank you for spending this time with me on Midlife Awakening. If this episode encouraged you, I invite you to share it with someone who may need it today and to follow the show so you don't miss future episodes. And you can always find my contact information in the About section of this podcast if you would like to email me. Until next time, and remember this, fear may overwhelm you for a moment, but it will never outlast the steadfast love of God.